Help! Help someone! Melissa screamed, riding under the weight of the drunken scumbag's body. Shut up, witch! He hissed, covering the girl's mouth with a hand that revealed a cobra tattoo on her wrist. The frightened girl tried to pull away, but suddenly she felt Rhode's hands pulling down her underwear, and then a sharp, cutting pain tore her from the inside. How's that, baby? The massive man hissed, breathing alcohol into her face. Come on, Ma. Twitch. I love chicks like that. Melissa gathered the rest of her strength and jerked her whole body to throw the rapist off her. But the forces were unequal. The dirty bastard pinned her down even more with his full weight. Hey, Dave, hold her legs. The bird's flapping too much. The rapist breathed heavily again, rocking back and forth, piercing Melissa's body. That's enough, Tom, said the other bastard, holding the girl's knees. Give up your seat and have some whiskey yourself. The rapist fell down, panting like a hunted horse. Another bastard took his place. Melissa stared at him in horror. Please don't do it. Let go. The girl begged, but the drunken boogeyman held her tightly. You're like this. The girl grinned and began to unbuckle his pants. At that moment, feeling her rapist's grip weaken, Melissa pushed him off her. Once free, she tried to run, but the big guy's fist caught up with her. The blow knocked her unconscious. As dawn broke, John went out into the yard to sweep up the fallen leaves. He worked as a janitor in this large apartment complex and lived in a small room in the basement of one of the entrances. The job suited John. Always visible, always around people, he was respected by many in the courtyard. Greeted with a smile in the morning and asked how his day was in the evening. Hey John, how were the kids in the yard today? Weren't they misbehaving? Parents would ask the caretaker when they got home. They were a little rowdy, but I found something for them to do, the man replied jokingly. Janitor John really kept an eye on the children's behavior and everything that was going on in the complex courtyard. That morning, his eyes immediately fell on a woman's purse next to the trash cans. As he approached, he saw a woman's leg into a torn stocking sticking out from under the trash can. Oh my gosh! John exclaimed as he peered behind the trash can. It's Melissa. The man turned around to see if there was anyone nearby who could help him, but it was too early for the tenants to come out of their apartments. As he sat down next to the girl, he was horrified to see that her face and body were covered in blood, and that her legs, which had been almost completely stripped of their stockings, were covered in blood and abrasions. John patted the girl's cheeks, and she groaned weakly. Alive, thank God, John thought, and called for an ambulance. A few minutes later, an ambulance pulled into the yard, followed by the police. Lying on the hospital bed, Melissa had great difficulty answering the investigators' questions. Did you see her? The policeman asked. Can you describe her? Can you help us with a sketch? No. She shook her head. It was dark. What? Do you remember anything? The policeman, already desperate for any information, came to life. But One of them had a cobra tattoo here. Melissa pointed to a patch of skin on her wrist. A scary one, with an open hood. That's something. The policeman sighed. All right. So get well. I will call you if I need you. Melissa's friend Jessica waited outside of the door for the policeman to come out. When she heard what had happened, she rushed to the hospital to see her friend. The two had been close friends since high school, going to the same university and renting a 2-bedroom apartment in a large apartment complex. Jessica fell asleep early that night, and when she woke up, the courtyard was crowded with people, ambulances, and police officers searching the lawn for evidence. Noticing that Melissa's bed was unmade, Jessica realized that her friend hadn't been home last night. This had never happened before, so she got worried and ran out into the yard, where she learned what had happened. Melissa, how are you? Jessica sat down on the edge of the bed next to her friend and sobbed when she saw the bruises on her face. That's horrible. How could that be? Who did this? Did you see it? Jess, I don't want to talk about it, Melissa said quietly, tears rolling down her cheeks. Honey, I know what you mean. Her friend took the palm of her hand and stroked it, trying to comfort her. Is there anything you need? Anything I can do for you? Nah, Melissa replied quietly, turning her head back to the wall. She couldn't bear to see her friend looking at her with pity. Go. Okay, I will check you on later. Jessica left the hospital room. She was a good friend, but she had one big flaw. She couldn't keep her mouth shut. Melissa realized that now the whole class will know what had happened to her, and that made it even worse. After a few days, the girl was sent home. The investigation was closed because it was impossible to find the rapists. There were no witnesses, and the victim herself could not say anything about the perpetrators. Melissa became depressed. The girl ate almost nothing and did not sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she could almost physically feel the rapist's dirty hands on her body. Memory will not spare Melissa, will not erase the moment of what had happened to her. Once, when she went outside, she looked at the grassy lawn with bushes and nearby garbage cans. A wave of hysteria overcame the girl. She trembled and rushed back into the entryway. It was that she finally realized she could no longer stay in the city. After picking up documents from the university, Melissa packed her suitcase and went to her parents' house in the hometown, hoping to find comfort there. Her mother and father were surprised by their daughter's unexpected arrival. But when they learned what had happened to her, they could not immediately recover from the shock. What their intelligent and beautiful daughter, with a bright future, had to endure seemed monstrous. Daughter, no one is going to hurt you here, her mother reassured Melissa. Daddy and I will take care of you. The father was more reserved about his daughter's tragedy, but he suffered no less. Since childhood, he dreamed for taking his Melissa to the wedding, giving her fragile hand to a worthy man, proud of having raised not only a smart, but also a clean and pure girl. And what awaits his daughter now? But the news of the rape did not end. the shock for Melissa and her parents. A few months later, Melissa, already waken up by anxiety and depression, went completely blind. Her mother and father could not find a place for themselves, not knowing what was happening to their daughter. Nevertheless, they were able to persuade the girl to go to the doctor. And on the appointed day, they went to the family doctor. After examining the girl, the doctor came out into the hallway to Melissa's parents. "She's pregnant," he said. The term is impressive. 15 to 16 weeks. "Oh my gosh," Melissa's mother said, covering her face with her hands. "What do we do now, doctor?" her father asked. "She's perfectly healthy, except for the fact that she's very depressed. I think a few sessions with a psychologist will help her recover, and I don't see any reason to terminate her pregnancy." "But doctor," Melissa's mother tried to tell the doctor where the pregnancy came from, but he wouldn't let her say a word. "I know what happened to Melissa. I've seen victims get pregnancy by rapists. Once they had an abortion, already disillusioned with life, they lost all meaning in it, believe me. God has given every woman the greatest happiness, the opportunity to become a mother. Don't make hasty decisions. Have a good day." When they got home, they expected any reaction from their daughter, but the way Melissa behaved surprised her mother and father. After the doctor's visit, she took a shower and announced that she was very hungry. Her mother rushed to the kitchen to feed her daughter, who had eaten almost nothing in the past few months. Pizza, fried chicken legs, fresh vegetable salad, sweets. The mother put it all on the table at the speed of sound. The seafood pasta Melissa loved was already cooking on the stove. "Eat, my daughter," the woman said, pushing the plates toward Melissa. "Here is some fresh juice. Drink it." Her father set a glass in front of her. Melissa looked up from her father to mother and smiled for the first time. "It's not the child's fault. Let's have a dinner together." The girl's mother covered her face with her hands, unable to hold back her tears. Her girl has come back to life. She's becoming her old self again. She's even smiled. The mother and father happily joined their daughter. They all ate everything on the table together with appetite, smiling at each other and cheering each other up with their glances. To the parents, their former daughter had returned. "She's strong, my girl," the father thought as he looked at Melissa. "She will give birth and dissolve into a baby. A mother has no time to think about bad things. Everything will be okay." Read the look into her mother's eyes. 6 months later, Melissa gave birth to a tiny, screaming black-haired baby girl. Baby Emily was as beautiful as her mother. 40 years passed. Emily was in a hurry to get home from work, but on the way she decided to stop at the grocery store. It was her birthday. Her mother was probably waiting for her at the table. Melissa had asked her daughter not to be late, but today there was a new case from the investigation that Emily had to look at least superficially. But the workday was over, and she decided to take the folder home to read the materials before going to bed. As she parked the car in the backyard of the private home, she and her mother of both years ago. Emily noticed Melissa's figure in the window. She's waiting to nag, she thought with a smile. Mom, I'm home, she called loudly from the doorway, dropping her shopping bags on the floor. Are you doing this again? Melissa wanted to grumble, but when she saw her daughter smile, her kind, loving look, she melted. She had never been able to be hard on Emily since she was a little girl. Her daughter was her purpose in life, her happiness and joy. I'm so hungry, let's have a dinner, Melissa suggested. I have everything ready. Open the wine and let's celebrate your birthday. The mother and daughter were very close. After Emily was born, Melissa never married and raised her daughter alone. Her parents helped her with everything, but they were long gone. At dinner, they shared the day's news. A neighbor came over and asked for your lemon cake recipe. Melissa said, I don't even know how you make it. And I had the nerve to treat her last week. Emily laughed. A young couple had recently moved in the next door. The new woman couldn't cook at all and kept coming to Melissa and Emily for recipes. One of these days, I'm going to have her come over and write down my recipes, Emily said. When are we going to get some rest? I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. What? A new case? Yes, it came in today. They called the gating they've been looking for 30 or 40 years. And almost importantly, we call the leader. It's an incredible stroke of luck. Emily worked in the district attorney office. Her mother could also have had a brilliant career as a lawyer, but the daughter knew the story of her birth, and it made her love and appreciate her mother even more. Not many women dare to give birth to rapists, and most of them abandon their babies after birth. Melissa raised her worthily, with love and care, and was able to give her a decent education. Her mother was also very intelligent, so Emily often consulted her on no matters of ministry. Would you like to see the suitcase? I took it home so I could have some time to go through the materials, the daughter suggested to Melissa. Are you asking me? Oh, sure. If you say so. Such a serious gang. I'll get it. Emily left the room and returned with a heavy folder. So this is only the material of the leader. There are several other folders like this. They cleared the dishes from the table and began to read the case files. Flipping through the pages, looking at the crime scene photos, sorting the episodes. Suddenly, Melissa turned pale. Her eyes were fixed on a photo on a folder. Bald woman. Who is he, daughter? She asked with white lips. So that's the gang leader the police were after in several states. The problem was that the criminals never stayed in one place for long. They were always moving from place to place. Emily said hurriedly. Melissa reached for her glasses and pulled them up over her nose, then pulled the folder closer. She carefully flipped through the pages of the perpetrator's features, the most important of which she recognized immediately. It was a cobra with an open hood. And even if she had fallen into complete madness and unconsciousness, Melissa would never forget that tattoo she had noticed on her rapist's wrist years ago. Mommy, what's wrong? Emily noticed her mother wasn't feeling well and put a glass of clean water in front of her. What are you so worried about? "That leader," Melissa said quietly. "Don't worry, he's already behind bars under investigation. He's not going anywhere now. And he can't hurt anyone else." "What did he do?" "Oh, I don't even ask. One day will be enough to list all his deeds." More than 60 episodes. A total scumbag. There's robbery, violence, murder. There was also kidnapping for ransom. The whole package. "Oh, he raped me when I was young," Melissa said in a low voice. "What did you say, Mom?" Emily looked at her mother in surprise and realized with each passing second time that Melissa was sure what she was saying. "No way." Seeing how nervous her mother was, Emily closed the folder and put it in her work bag. Melissa wasn't at the age to have another nervous breakdown revisiting memories of her youth. Emily spent the rest of the evening trying to distract her mother from her heavy thoughts, offering to look at the photo album of pictures she held dear, and then turning on her mother's favorite TV show. But Melissa could hardly keep up a conversation with her daughter, for in her soul a terrible, glowing rage was multiplying and growing that she felt for this man from the case file. Emily went to church. Today she had to appear in court to accuse the leader of the gang that had been hunted by the police for so long. Several generations of police officers had been replaced, and the gang had managed to remain at large. Emily will have to be the one to ask the court for the maximum punishment. For several days, she had been preparing a guilty plea, but last night she had crumpled and torn up all the pages. The woman decided that everything she had written before will not make the right impression on the judges. So she should withdraw from the trial. The courtroom was filled with people. Journalists were sitting on the cameras. The trial was going to be noisy. The newspapers were already full of news that today will decide the fate of those who had kept good citizens in fear for decades. Finally, the accused were led into the barred glass cage. There were 9 of them. The ringleader, a man in his 60s with a wrinkled face and dull, fishy eyes, looked around the courtroom. The clerk called the court to order, and the trial began. "I give you the floor to the prosecution." Emily heard herself, as if in a fog, and stood up, looking around the room and then at the defendants. "Members of the jury, we are here today to try those who have mutilated many lives by their vicious, criminal, horribly cruel acts. More than 60 episodes have been investigated, and the guilt of the defendants has been proven in every one of them. But today, standing before you, I am forced to say that I will not be able to bring charges against the criminals for those episodes." There was a murmur in the audience. The cameraman brought the cameras closer and trained their lenses on Emily. The criminal looks up from their seats in amazement at the prosecutor's refusal to indict. "But let me take one charge, the most serious to me personally. Madam Prosecutor, please explain what you said," the jury foreman asked sternly. "Of course. Many years ago, Tom Smith, the leader of the gang before you, who was not yet a master criminal, but a simple scoundrel and villain, raped a young girl with his accomplice. She was a virgin, studying at the university, preparing to become a lawyer so that they could justly punish people like that. Emily pointed his hand at the criminals. But it was the bastards who mutilated and ruined her life. May I ask, is this episode in the case file? The jury foreman asked. No. Emily shook her head. There is no such episode. But there is the fruit of this terrible crime. Its aftermath. It's right in front of you. It's me. The room was filled with voices that rang out in confession and bounced off the walls. Gang leader Tom Smith lifted his eyes to Emily. It has been a long time since he remembered the horrible assault he and his body had committed one night in the courtyard of an ordinary apartment complex. Nor did he remember the girl who had begged them to let her go. There were many victims like her in his life. I won't be able to indict these scumbags and criminals today, Emily said firmly, enunciating each word. The reason I can't is because I'm the daughter of this bandit. I'm the chief witness to one of his crimes. No, not a silent testimony on paper, but a living testimony that will remind him every day of what he did to a young girl. I'm sorry, but our state has a moratorium on the death penalty. I would like to request the death penalty for this beast. The courtroom erupted again as reporters moved into the capture the sensational footage. Tom Smith stood in the cell, his face close to the glass, staring into the prosecutor's face. In the last moments of his life, he remembered the bushes in the yard and the body of the raped girl that he and his friend had dragged behind the garbage cans. The old criminal suddenly gasped, clutched his chest, and collapsed to the ground. 40 years later, retribution had caught up with the man who had been denied justice for decades.